first time
I
the
think I
president
would
talks
have
about it.
been infinitely more upset and more critical of the FAA and hiring policies and procedures that allowed for that crash to happen
I mean, you
than
don't actually.
directing my
But
anger
that's the
at
point,
You
Natalie.
don't
You
know
don't.
that.
No, but hang on, Natalie. You don't. Yeah, here's the point, Natalie. You have no idea why that crash happened.
Well, welcome back to the channel, everybody. As you can see, we are on Piers Morgan Uncensored today. He's got a panel consisting of Cenk Uygur, Natalie Winters, and some guy from England who apparently knows something about airplanes and air traffic control, and they are talking about what else the plane and helicopter crash in Washington, D.C. a few days ago. Piers Morgan, in this segment here that we're going to take a look at, he's basically going on about how he thought Donald Trump bringing up DEI, or the potential that the crash was caused by DEI hiring, was a factor in the crash. And not so much that he brought it up, but he brought it up during his initial press briefing. And to be fair, I kind of agree with him. I mean, it was pretty tacky, or it was very inappropriate, I would say. Obviously, I think Donald Trump has incredible political instincts. He definitely does. I agree 100%. He did need to bring it up. Even if he mentioned it in connection with the FAA and hiring of air traffic controllers, it looks almost certain at this point that the crash was caused by the helicopter, nothing to do with the air traffic controllers on duty that evening. They did everything perfectly, but rather it was the helicopter that caused the crash. However, now this video, as I watch it, yeah, it's pretty recent. What we do know, or what is very interesting and has already led to conspiracy theories, is the fact that the Army took something like 3 or 4 days before they released the name of the actual pilot of the helicopter. There were 3 people in the helicopter, 2 names they released immediately, 2 men, and a third person, a pilot, which is rumored to be a woman, or which I think we knew was a woman, was not released for several days. And when they finally released her name, it was yesterday as I record this, it was found that all traces of her social media had been completely scrubbed from the internet. So, of course, what's going to happen? Everybody's going to start asking, why did they scrub all traces of her media of her social media from the internet? Anyway, we'll talk a bit more about that later. Let's get into this segment.
What's it? I thought from that moment, never mind anything else. Anyway, look, I want to turn to the plane crash. Cenk, I want to play a clip of President Trump talking about the appalling plane crash in Washington.
Point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so.
I've got to be honest, Cenk, before you respond to that, I did not like that. I didn't like that. I just felt like there's a time and a place to do that kind of stuff, and it's not in the immediate aftermath of a terrible crash with so many people killed, and before you really know anything about what's happened. Now, it may well turn out, as often with Trump, that a lot of the stuff he's talking about, in some way, that there will be merit to the argument. But I just felt the timing, to me, was wrong. That if you're president of the United States and 60-odd people, plus the people on board the helicopter, if they've all died in a horrific crash, actually your job in that moment is to be comforter-in-chief, not blamer-in-chief.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you. First off, yes, I know the program that he's referring to, and it doesn't help our side to deny reality. So there was a terrible DEI or diversity program about a decade ago, and it did absurd things like give you extra points if science was your worst class, right? So it was absurd. But that's been gone for over a decade now. And coming right out of the crash, when you start blaming DEI, what you're saying to your base is, oh, I'm not going to look into what went wrong here. Was it the plane? Was it the helicopter? Why was it the miscommunication? Overstaffing, understaffing. Obviously, overstaffing is not an issue, but understaffing, et cetera, right? You're coming out and going, minorities did it. And that's a terrible look. And you could say, hey, you know what, Cenk, you just told us that there were some DEI abuses. That's right. And that's part of why they won the election. But if you then swing the pendulum so far that you blame minorities after every single incident, which is basically what looks like it's happening right now, you're going to turn off the country. You certainly turned me off. So and then they'd realize, oh wait, black voters are coming towards us, so that's a bad idea. So Jesse Waters goes on Fox News and goes, well, okay, it wasn't black people, it was dwarves, the deaf, and transgender people. You didn't even investigate anything yet, and you're blaming dwarves? It's absurd, and it's going to have the pendulum swing back against you, and the American people are going to go, I'm tired of you blaming minorities and women and dwarves.
Well, yeah, I mean, Cenk makes a point there, and to his credit, he also accepts that the FAA's ridiculous or insanely destructive DEI policy was dreadful. And I mean, it's one thing to call it silly, but it was actually catastrophic. But he says it ended 10 years ago. First, I'm not sure it actually ended 10 years ago. I think Donald Trump canceled it when he took office the first time, which was in 2016. Secondly, plenty of people were hired under that policy. So what about all those people? I think they should be removed immediately if or replaced by people who are competent, if incompetent people were hired. More importantly, given that we now know that the authorities took care to, well, first of all, it was a woman flying. Secondly, from all the experts sites that I've read, there are actually some good subreddits on Reddit. The aviation one has a lot of experts talking about about all various aspects of this tragic accident. The woman flying was not highly skilled. Yeah, she had something like 500 hours of flight time, which apparently really is not that much, especially for such an important role and in such such extremely busy airspace like that around Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. So I think Trump's instincts here are right. Even though he initially said something, as the FAA, DEI at the FAA, and of course the woman pilot has nothing to do with the FAA. The fact is, there's a very good chance she is a DEI hire, and there's a very good chance that the reason they took 4 days before releasing her name was so that they could scrub every trace of her off the internet, because I have a feeling there were things that she was saying and that the Army were saying about her, specifically promoting her, and it was probably pretty obvious that she was a DEI hire of some kind. Apparently she was a lesbian. She was married to some woman. So she's, ticks 2 DEI boxes in that case. A woman and LGBT, or LGB as the government calls it now, apparently. The T's been dropped. So, again, I am in awe at Trump's, just his natural political instincts. And yes, I agree with Piers Morgan that it doesn't really seem like the best place to bring it up like he did, but Trump just doesn't care. It seems like he really has 0 F's to give this time around. And frankly, I'm happy for that.
Please.
I would also point out President Trump said these comments while giving a press briefing in the James Brady press briefing room. It wasn't like he was saying it in a capacity where he couldn't be challenged.
No, but let me ask you, Natalie. Natalie, let me ask you this. Natalie, let me ask you this. I felt for the first half of it, he was absolutely on point and he said all the right things. But if you were, for example, if you knew somebody on the plane or the helicopter, a family member, a friend, a work colleague, whoever it may be, how would you honestly have felt? Just be honest about what he then went into the line he then took, where he was just having a go at Biden, having a go at Obama, having a go about DEI, all these things. I mean, I don't know about you, but I just felt on a human level, my criticism would have been wrong timing. Just don't do it there. not the first time
I
the
think
president
I would
talks
have
about
been infinitely more upset and more critical of the FAA and hiring policies and procedures that allowed for that crash to happen.
Yeah, but you
than
don't
directing
actually.
my
But that's the
anger
point.
You
Natalie,
don't know that.
No, but hang on, Natalie. You don't. Yeah, here's the point, Natalie. You have no idea why that crash happened. None of us do. So when you say that, you're justifying what President Trump did, but you don't know any more than he did in that moment about what's happened here. We just have no idea. It could have been
He
anything.
did not directly outright blame it on DEI in the same way
Yes,
that
he
when he
did.
talked about
Yes, he did.
COVID
Sorry,
origin,
go back and read the
talked about
transcript.
the Wuhan
Go back.
Institute of Virology.
Go,
Yeah, he did.
go back
There's
and read the
compounding
transcript, please.
factors. Decades of hiring unqualified people or less qualified people is going to lead to less qualified people running, as they
But if
call
I'd
them,
been him,
complex
if I'd been him,
systems.
if I'd been him, honestly, Cenk, if I'd been President Trump, if I had already found out, and I don't know if he knew this in the moment or not, if I had found out that, for example, in that air traffic control room, normally at that time of night, there is somebody managing the helicopters and somebody managing the planes, and in that particular moment on that night, one person was doing both jobs. That fact alone, and I'll come to Richard for your more expert view of that, but that fact alone raises massive alarm bells, and it plays to the general agreed feeling about this from all sides that air traffic control is under real pressure in terms of staffing. So, and that, it seems to me, might well turn out to be the most likely thing here, rather than DEI, which is a separate issue. I mean, I honestly, I hate DEI. I think it's become an awful thing that has been misused, mischaracterized, and actually abused in a way which has promoted mediocrity over meritocracy, and I hate that. So just for the record, DEI sucks, just generally as a concept, I think. However, there's no evidence DEI played any part here, but there is clear evidence now emerging of understaffing and potentially critical understaffing, where one person was doing two jobs on a busy night.
And that's exactly what happened
So,
in a second. Go ahead.
Right, Richard, I'll come to you in one sec. Just get Cenk to respond to that.
Yeah. Yeah, so listen, as we speculate as to what is more likely, I have dwarves as less likely. I have understaffing as far, far, far more likely. And so what happened here is that Congress, by the way, and almost no one's talking about this, and I'll tell you why in a second, ordered 50 more routes at an already incredibly crowded airway at Reagan National Airport. And that's because they wanted direct flights back to their states and districts, and let's be honest, probably their donors. So did they then increase the air traffic controllers at Reagan? No, they refused to fund that, but they said, you have to give us our direct flights. So that's the first place I would look for as to what went wrong, because we definitely had understaffing. And if I'm a family member of someone who died, and someone's doing nonsense talk about dwarves and transgender people, instead of trying to figure out why my family member died and to make sure that we prevent that from happening again, I would be furious. But why don't people talk about that? Well, because Republican and Democratic politicians voted that way. So it's not easy to say it's Trump's fault, it's DEI's fault, so it doesn't fall into the normal political and cultural wars. And one last thing on this, Piers. Look, Trump's greatest strength and weakness is the same thing, marketing. So when we were talking about earlier, he comes in, it's the same economy, he pretends that it changed overnight and went from terrible to amazing, but he beats his chest and marketing, and it works. And the Democrats never, ever defend themselves, can't make their case if they're life dependent. But on the other hand, Trump always takes it too far. And so here he comes in and goes, oh, all these people died. It's a great advantage to use my talking points against DEI. No, it isn't, brother. And it's really sad for those families and disturbing that you're using them for a political tactic. And it's really
It would actually be,
terrible.
it would be genuinely hilarious if it turned out you were Donald Trump's brother, just for the record. Let me...
Just Piers Morgan getting in a little tiny dig at Cenk there, who always says my brother, to whoever he's talking to, even people he seems to hate, like Donald Trump. So anyway, yeah, this is going to be an ongoing story, obviously, but Trump is rampaging through this second term so far. I hope he keeps up the energy, and I hope we find out what actually happened. during that crash. It really is tragic. I'm sure all of you have seen the footage. And of course, we want to hear what's on the voice recorders. You know, that will be interesting. Well, especially the voice recorder from the helicopter, because I think there might be something a bit. I think there might be a smoking gun there. You know, who knows? I don't want to speculate right now. There's loads of conspiracy theories on the internet if you're into that sort of thing. But I will just leave it there for now. Let me know if you have anything. If you have anything to comment on, please go ahead and comment. I've been reading all the comments, replying to quite a few too. And in the meantime, if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.